Hello, thank you for joining me today for this interview. I'm Bea Marshall. I'm the founder of Yes Parenting, and I am an intuitive parenting coach and EFT practitioner. And today I'm really excited because I am joined by Hannah Bailey, who is a nutritionist. She has her own company called Wise Choice Nutrition, and her passion and her focus is helping busy, stressed out women find a healthier way forwards for themselves and their families when it comes to food. So welcome, Hannah.
Thank you, Bea. I'm really excited to be here.
It's great to have you here. Now, for those who are watching this interview who are part of Yes Parenting for Happy Families, will know that the reason I'm interviewing you is because next week you're joining us as a guest expert, which is going to be great. For those who are watching this, because it's it's publicly available on YouTube and Facebook and things like that, let me just explain that every month I bring a guest expert into my membership group for 1 week so that they can support the mums in that membership group in an area that isn't specific to parenting but has an impact, because we're holistic beings, and if one part of our life isn't right, it affects everything else. So therefore parenting can be affected by anything, including our food and our nutrition. So Hannah, talk me through a little bit about your journey to where you are today, because you started your business straight out of university, didn't you?
Yes, so I graduated 6 years ago from Hallam with a degree in public health nutrition, and I've now gone back to university to distance learn for a master's in personalised nutrition, which will give me a qualification of a nutritional therapist at the end of the year, which is really exciting. And a lot of the work that I do now is predominantly with women, particularly looking at how food fits into their life, what happens to their bodies when they're eating food, their relationship with food, and also the impact that it has on their families, how they can improve their children's health as well. And it's taken a much more holistic approach, which is the reason why I started doing my master's, because I wanted to be able to work more holistically and more functionally, so we get right down to the nitty-gritty of what's going on when we're qualified, which is really exciting.
Brilliant. So just explain a little bit then, what's the difference between a nutritionist and a nutritional therapist?
So the main difference is that nutritionists primarily work in public health, and most of the work that they do is preventative work, giving people guidance on eating a better diet. As a nutritional therapist, we are then able to work with people who've got much more complex conditions. They might be on a whole range of medication. They might be heart disease patients. They could be cancer patients, whatever we choose to then be our speciality, because we look much more at the role that their medication takes. We look at what medication they're on. We're never allowed to say to somebody to stop taking something, but we have to be very aware of the interactions between food, supplements and medication. Whereas nutrition tends to be much more, this is what we recommend for a healthy, balanced lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. So how will your master's in nutritional therapy how will that help you to support these busy, stressed out women that you love to work with? Like, how does it transfer across to that?
Well, I'll be able to do testing on them, which it's not for everybody, but it's a really good indicator of what's actually going on in the body, because two people can eat a very similar diet, but the effects on them can be massively different because our bodies all work differently. We will all have different nutrient depletions. The impact of stress will affect us all differently. So things like cortisol will be high in some people, low in other people, and all of those things that have an impact mean that when you're actually talking with somebody, you can give them much more personalised suggestions, because you know exactly what's going on in their bodies. And that is so powerful, because blanket advice is currently not working for the vast majority of people, and especially people in chronically stressed out states. it's just not nutritional. It's just not supportive enough of their nutritional needs.
And that's actually something that you and I have spoken about quite a lot in the past, that every body is different and everybody actually needs a different set of nutrition. So I know that you've played around with low carb and various other things, and we've talked at length about the way I've adjusted my diet over the years to feel great in myself. So when you're coming into the group next week, I'm meeting with my wonderful mums. What is your plan for the week? Like, what can the mums expect to receive from you, and what kind of things could they bring to you that you might be able to help them with?
So one of the things that I've done during my business journey is I worked in-house with a family to help them improve the nutrition of their children, and that's something that I'm really passionate about. It's definitely something that I want to do more of in the business, because I think mums have such a difficult time. We are so judgmental as women, not only of ourselves but of other people, and I really want to be able to help your mums to feel like they know what they are doing in terms of nutrition. So giving them an opportunity to ask questions about what their child should be eating. Is the diet that their child is eating healthy, and how can they improve it? And give people a general idea of what actually is a healthy, balanced diet, because I think we've got so confused and so lost with all the media messages. Most people who come to me just don't know anymore, and they're so baffled by it all. They just want some simple, clear advice of things that they can do that aren't going to cost a fortune, don't need hours of preparation, and may help to improve their child's relationship with food, improve their relationship with food, and make the whole family happier and healthier. That is my plan for the week. And with that, I'll be sharing a 1-week menu plan that's specifically for busy families to help them actually know what they can eat. Because it's all very well giving advice, but often it's the practical implementation of that can be more tricky.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful that you're sharing that meal plan, because I mean, I know that that's something that clients pay you for. They pay you to receive meal plans. So the fact that you are going to actually be sharing a sample meal plan that the mums can take away and, use or adapt, or kind of work with you to kind of make it right for their family, is incredible. So thank you for that. Yeah. What's going to be really interesting, I think, next week when you're in the group is how the nutritional kind of knowledge and experience that you have sits alongside yes parenting, because you and I have known each other now. We've known each other for 6 years. Hannah actually used to look after my boys several years ago. It must be about 5 years ago now. She used to look after my boys while I worked. So Hannah's really very much seen yes parenting in action. She has seen me be completely relaxed with my boys for the most part around their choices around food, their sugar intake and things like that. And Hannah has also seen the journey that my eldest son Pete has gone on, where he chose to explore how food was affecting his body, and he's cured himself of very severe eczema by cutting out dairy and realizing that he needs to massively limit gluten. And also he's noticed how sugar affects his emotional health and his mental well-being. And so I'm excited to bring you in, because I know that although you come from a place of, this is optimum nutrition, this is how to have the healthiest family, I also know that you come from a place of recognizing that, it's about balance, and and I know that because you've been part of my journey and my as a family and my parenting journey, I know that you don't come with judgment when there's a mum like me. Kind of like,
it's finding the way that works for you and your family. And I think, I get people, especially at group presentations, who say to me, so how can I make my child do this? And it isn't about making your child do things. So when I was working in-house and nannying, the kids' diet to begin with was appalling, but I just gave them choices. And it's simple things like letting them serve themselves meant they started to eat so much more variety. And they would make faces with their food, and I didn't care. Their dad went absolutely mad when he saw it, but it made them happy. And then they ate, which made me happy.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like there was food all over the floor. It was just that they needed to make a face out of their food and then they could eat it. And it's finding those ways that are going to work for you and your family, that fit with your parenting ethos, whatever that is, and feels right for you. Because if it feels right, then it will be something you can continue.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I encourage a lot of mums to have, if they're having challenges with their kids around meal times and things, and I know that for some of the mums in the group that this has been a real issue. One of the things that I always recommend is the concept of monkey platters. So just really trays or plates that have lots of things on, but in small quantities, and the children are free to have what they want, and putting sweet and savoury alongside each other, and taking away the kind of the judgment that has often, the judgment and labelling that has often entered into the language around food, which, you know, and then creates restrictions. And the first thing that happens when you have a restriction is that you want more of it. So just before we finish, I would love you to share a little bit about your personal relationship with food and body image and things, because one of the things that I have found as a parenting coach is that I've noticed that there's, within me, this comes from me, sometimes it's feeling that I need to be a perfect parent, or like if people find out that I yelled at my kids, then, you know, they won't trust me anymore. And actually what I've discovered is that the opposite is true, is that when I'm vulnerable and I share with my audience, you know, that I'm imperfect, I'm perfectly imperfect, and you know, that although I'm now with Yes Parenting have this incredible relationship with my kids and with myself, you know, I'm not immune to losing my temper, and I'm not immune to my children presenting unwanted behaviours and things like that. So I think it would be incredibly powerful to hear from you about your own relationship with food and body image, and how that has shaped the direction that you're taking your work.
Absolutely. So currently I'm pretty much the heaviest I've ever been after I really struggled with food last year, and what I realised was that it was all to do with my mindset, and I was so hard on myself about it, and expecting that I was perfect. And actually this year, okay, it's only, you know, early January, but I've made such a big shift and just feel so much better for it. But a lot of that has come from work at the end of last year to start loving myself and accepting myself as the person that I am. And it's okay to not be perfect. And that's a really big thing for me with clients is, you know, we're not on a diet. This is a lifestyle change, and your lifestyle will include other choices of things like chocolate or crisps or whatever it is that you choose. And I hate this labeling of good and bad food, because any food in excess is never going to actually be good for you. There will be a negative impact on your body. And I think for me, when I took away all judgment, and when I said, right, I want to eat to what to me is a healthy, balanced diet because it makes me feel good. And when I decided that that was actually something that's really easy for me to do, it's something that's completely affordable, and it's something that's very important, suddenly it became so much easier. Whereas when I was trying to be really strict, it just didn't happen because I found it too difficult. So now, nothing's banned. If I want to have chocolate, I'll have chocolate, but I don't want it because I've made the choices to have healthier meals, to home cook, and I feel absolutely fantastic for it. But it's taken a long time to get to this point, and it's taken a long time to work through all the other stuff that goes on, because our relationships with food are incredibly complex. It's not like alcohol where you can just cut it out and you don't ever have to have it again. We have to eat. So we have to be able to choose healthier choices at some point, and some people get there much quicker than others do. So this year my goal is, you know, I'm really focusing on my health, and as part of that I've started running again. But it took a long time to get to that point, and it took a lot of looking in the mirror, hating myself, pointing out all the fat bits that actually other people don't really see. And I didn't realise that because I see it, but other people don't see it. And I've really worked now to just think, you know what, I am the person that I am, and I love and respect myself so much more for that. And part of that self-love and self-care is to feed myself decent, nourishing food, which then makes me feel much better. And it's this whole vicious cycle. Once you get into it, it's so much easier, and once you get out of it, it's so hard to get back into it. So I have really struggled with food for a long time, which again stems from childhood and food being very restricted. And I think we all have much more complex relationships than we actually want to admit or even are aware of, and that's perfectly okay. There's, you know, absolutely no judgment there. But when you start to unravel all of that and start to realise where those behaviours come from, and for me it was a big part of what do I want this food to actually provide. And I realised that junk food was providing a comfort, but it wasn't providing a comfort, because actually all it did was provide guilt as soon as I'd eaten it. So then when I started to look for comfort from other things and look for acceptance from myself rather than other people, suddenly I don't need food to provide that anymore. I need food to provide fuel and energy to make me feel good and to allow me to run a business and to study and have the life that I want to have. And it feels absolutely amazing to just be free of that grip, to, you know, go to a supermarket hungry and still be able to come home having only bought what I intended to buy. You can't put a price on that. That is absolutely like fantastic feeling to have that. So yeah, my relationship has been very up and down with food, and I think for me that makes me normal as well, because I'm not perfect and I don't ever claim to be perfect. I had too much wine on Sunday, I paid for it on Monday, but I ate decent food and I feel so much better. So, you know, we're all human beings, and I never would expect someone to have a perfect diet, because it's not maintainable and it's not enjoyable. Food's an enjoyable social thing. So, you know, that's very much how I'm viewing it now.
Wonderful. I had a bit of a moment in the supermarket yesterday. Actually, I was went shopping with my boys, and we were in Aldi, and Aldi has, you know, the specials aisle down the middle, and they had this this product called Sweet Freedom chocolate. It was Sweet Freedom chocolate something. And they had chocolate orange, and Sweet Freedom is essentially made of, I don't know, it's like fruit sugars, and they claim it to be low fructose. I don't quite know how, but anyway, so I saw this Sweet Freedom chocolate syrup stuff, and it was saying you could use it for hot chocolates and on top of ice cream and all this kind of thing. And I read the back of it and saw that it was, you know, it didn't have any refined sugar added and things like that. And I would normally, because I choose, unless I choose to live a sugar-free diet, unless I kind of find myself tripping up and eating loads of sugar. But once I start eating sugar, I can't stop. So it's better for me not to eat it.
Yeah.
But and I had this thing, and I was like, I would normally buy this just because it's sugar-free and it's chocolate, and, you know, I was like, actually, I don't want it. And I put it back, and it felt so empowering to have that moment of just making that choice. It was incredible. And I know that every now, because I lived with a compulsive eating disorder for 2 decades, I do know that every now and then, you know, something in life, life happens, and something will happen in life, and, you know, I will find myself going into that compulsive kind of binge relationship with food. But when I look at what that might look like for me now compared to what it would have looked like 5 years ago, you know, I'm winning. And I think it's so important to recognize where, not just with food, in all areas of our life, but we're talking about food right now, it's so important to recognize where we are making those better choices, where we are having successes, and celebrating ourselves and being grateful to ourselves for that experience, because it is so empowering to feel like you are in control of your food, not food is in control of you.
Yeah, and I think we are so judgmental, especially as women, really, really judgmental of what we have done. And so often that then leads to a vicious spiral down, rather than saying, okay, that was yesterday, today is a new day. And with people who are really struggling, I say to people, literally 1 meal a week. If you improve 1 meal a week, that's a start. That's better than where you are right now. And it's moving from where you are right now to a little bit further forward each time. And if you're doing that, you're making progress. And don't worry about what somebody else is doing. Do what feels right for you, what makes you happy and what's getting you the results that you want, because it's your journey at the end of the day. And you know, our bodies all work in different ways. So somebody might lose 7 pounds in a week, you might lose 1. Well, does it really matter? If you're eating better and you're feeling better, that's more important than the number on the scales.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one of my sons is I can hear him playing with the dog on the landing. So if there's noise that transfers through to the interview, I apologise now. One thing that this is what I'd like to finish on, I think, is because not everybody watching this video is part of Yes Parenting for Happy Families. And if you are watching and, you know, you think, oh, this membership group sounds interesting, I want to find out more, please do get in touch with me, or you can visit www.bmarshall.com/yes-parenting-for-happy-families. But this is the last thing that I want to just ask you to share with us all, because I know you're going to share so much with us next week and it's going to be amazing. But for the people who aren't part of my membership group, would you share with us like your top tips for ways to begin that process of transforming your relationship with food and your family's relationship with food on this path of moving us towards being healthier?
Yeah, I think in terms of children, which is what often causes a lot of anxiety for parents, the biggest thing that I found, and this is purely my experience, but it sounds like it's similar to things I know B has done as well, is start giving children more choices, because so often we put food in front of children and expect them to eat it. And actually, if someone did that to us, we might not necessarily fancy whatever's put in front of us. So what I used to do with the 3 girls I looked after is each week we'd do a menu plan and they could each pick a meal that they would like to have. And we would generally then make a slight alteration to it to include more vegetables perhaps, but they would have that and they would enjoy doing that. They would enjoy the cooking of it as well. And I know if you're busy, you're working, you've got kids going to activities and things, it isn't always easy to get them involved. But I found getting them involved in the cooking really made a huge difference to how much they ate without me actually saying anything at all about it. And I never talked to them about whether food was good or bad, because a French child came home from school saying, well, I'm not eating cheese anymore because the teacher said it's bad for me. And it's this labeling again of good, bad. Well, actually, a bit of cheese is never going to hurt him. And another big thing for me that I found made a massive difference was sitting at the table with the kids, regardless of whether I was eating at the same time as them, but sitting down with them, talking to them about their day, and just being there meant that it became a very sociable occasion, and they soon started to sit down at the table and eat proper meals, giving them that freedom, you know, allowing them to serve themselves the vegetables that they wanted perhaps, or asking them for their input. And when you start to empower a child as well, which I know is one of the things Yes Parenting is very much about, listening to a child's needs as well as an adult's needs, I found that made a huge difference. And at that point, Yes Parenting hadn't really been labelled, had it? It was sort of something that you were doing, and I knew about from looking after these children, but I found that implementing that made a massive, massive difference. And the big thing that I would say as an adult is, again, going back to menu planning. Menu planning gives you organisation, it gives you a structure for your week, and it makes life feel easier because there's less, oh, I don't know what to have for dinner tonight. So a big thing that I do is I menu plan each week now, and I batch cook. So I have got a freezer full of homemade ready meals, which means that if I'm in a situation where I need something quickly, there's something there. And that works really well for you, but it also works really well for children as well. And again, comes back to giving them choices. So rather than just falling back on pizza, pasta, whatever it is, there's other options in there that they can also choose. And for me, those are two of the biggest things I've found with menu planning as well. It reduces waste hugely because you know what to buy, and so you only shop for that. It gives you a structure in the supermarket to avoid those temptations of putting things in the basket because it's on offer. And it saves you so much money because you've just got food there. So it's sorted. But a big thing as well is, don't judge yourself on the days where you maybe do feel like you fall off the wagon. It's a new day the next day. Start again. Even if breakfast is the meal that you feel you've eaten well and the others maybe weren't so good, so what? You ate one healthy meal out of 3. That's better than nothing at all. And it's always that thing of remembering, I'm doing better than I was. And that's what's so important, because it's too often the psychological reasons behind why we're eating the way that we eat that impact on our success rather than the actual practical reasons.
Brilliant. Wow. Thank you. There was so much in there. It was amazing. At first, I was trying to kind of keep a kind of a mental list of all the points so that I could recap. But then you just kept sharing more and more and more points. And I was, no, don't apologise. It was amazing. Because people can rewind and they can pause the video and jot it down. I mean, I know that you said giving children choice. You talked about getting children involved in the preparation and cooking of food. My boys often help me making food, normally the main meal in the evening. And they have, even in the past, when I've written out on an A4 piece of paper, I've written out basic instructions. They've made a complete meal for the 3 of us. You talked about giving children the opportunity to serve themselves things, so they're empowered. You talked about menu planning, and you talked about batch cooking. On Hannah's Instagram account, she shares her kind of like her journey with how she's managing to create a healthy lifestyle for herself. And you write on your freezer door, don't you, or on a piece of paper on your freezer door in there, so you know exactly what's in there. And I actually just spoke to my mum on the phone yesterday, I think it was, and we were chatting about what we were up to, and she was telling me that she was about to work out what on earth was in her freezer, because her freezer was just completely full and she didn't really know what it was. So she was going to have to pull it all out, work out what everything was, write it down so she knew what was in her freezer. So obviously it makes sense to kind of think ahead and keep a note as you put things in there, and then obviously as you take things out. And there was so many other treasures in that little list of top tips, but anyway, those are the ones that kind of I remembered. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's been absolutely brilliant to hear about your work, to hear about your personal journey, to get those wonderful tips, and I can't wait to have you in the group next week. It's going to be fantastic.
I'm so looking forward to it, and thank you for giving me the opportunity as well, Bea.
My pleasure. So if anybody's watching who's not in the group, can you just share what's the easiest way for them to get in touch with you if they want to talk to you about this?
The easiest way, to be honest, is via Facebook. So facebook.com/Wise Choice Nutrition, or if you just search for Wise Choice Nutrition, you'll find me. And that's probably the best way to get in touch with me, because it's the thing that I check most often. The other option is to drop me an email to info@wisechoicenutrition.co.uk, which is all one word, obviously. So.
Great. Thank you so much, Hannah. And I look forward to welcoming you into the group.
Excellent.
I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.